I want to welcome everybody today to our webinar, 10 Tips to Ensure Your Sustainability Training is Successful. This is Tad Radzinski, and I'll be your presenter today. I look forward to talking to all of you for the next 45 minutes or so about how to really integrate sustainability into your organization and how to ensure that any training you do will be successful to move forward and drive sustainability into your culture within your company. I just wanted to let you all know that this presentation today is approved for our CEP credits. It will satisfy one professional development hour for certification if you are a registered professional engineer, surveyor, or anything like that. And this is definitely an approved course for that. Also wanted to let you know that this is a copyrighted presentation and cannot be recreated or reproduced without our written permission. So today I plan to really talk about how to go about integrating certain aspects or certain tips, I guess you would say, of measures and activities that you can do to really improve your sustainability training program. And many companies have sustainability programs, but we often see that there's usually one or two people that's responsible for running sustainability in the organization, and really they're struggling to get more people within the organization engaged and excited and participating in the sustainability initiatives. So the purpose of this today is to really give you tips and ideas on how to move this forward, move the program, really build it into your business strategy, and to get your program to whatever level you're seeking, to meet your goals, to, be a recognized force in the market, whatever you're trying to, achieve with your various programs. So we're going to definitely talk about understanding how to educate your company to effectively communicate sustainability objectives. We're going to discuss how to prepare your company to maximize sustainability opportunities successfully, identify how to gain competitive advantage while helping customers meet maybe green building or sustainability goals, and how to stay a leader with innovation in the evolving marketplace. I've been teaching for quite a number of years. I started teaching in the universities back in 1998 and have been teaching ever since. And teaching and training has been a huge piece of everything we do within our company. It's also been very critical for me as a person to, educate my students. I presently teach at Villanova University, where we have a master's degree in sustainable engineering. And, I have found that just about everything we do when it comes to sustainability requires some kind of education or training. There's not a lot of people in the world that are really well versed when it comes to sustainability or corporate responsibility. So being able to get people excited and engaged and interested and actually just educated on what their role is really important. And in all the different divisions that we have within our company, Sustainable Solutions Corporation, from corporate sustainability to sustainable buildings and operations, we're always doing training in those different groups. For the buildings and operations, we're routinely training either tenants within buildings or the buildings operations staff on how they can operate their buildings more sustainably. If we do LEED certification work, there's training that's required for the people that are managing the building as well as the occupants. So we're routinely doing training there. And then on the corporate sustainability side, oftentimes we're doing life cycle assessments or sustainable product innovation projects, and there's a huge component of training that's involved with that to get people engaged and really up to speed so they can take what they learned and implement it on a daily basis. So training is really critical, and it is something that's, all of us have been through. I'm sure many people on this webinar have, gone through some type of training or education when it comes to sustainability, and the way that we effectively implement things is really going to be a true measure of how successful your program is going to be. So today I'm going to be talking about 10 different tips. One is involving the entire company. We're going to go into detail on that shortly. Obtaining input from your employees, integrating sustainability activities into daily tasks. This is something where, it's important to keep this at the forefront of people's minds, whether you're basically having signage or information on your intranet or different things like that. All really important aspects. Creating checklists and guidelines to help people to easily implement the things they're learning and achieving, to work towards achieving the various sustainability goals within the company is really important. We also think it's critical to empower all with sustainability information, and that's, part of the training is making sure that all people are aware. There tends to be a lot of folks that'll say, oh, well, you're the sustainability person, it's your problem, I don't really need to know about this. But if you're really going to be effective at getting sustainability built into your business culture, then you are going to need to have all people within the organization excited and geared up for that. Preparing for current and future industry changes. This is something that, from a sustainability perspective, one thing that people don't really realize is sustainability is also about risk mitigation. So if you're a company that manufactures products, you might have various raw materials or even natural resources that are critical for you, that if they come in short supply or something like that, could be a major issue. Or maybe there's some regulations coming down the pike that could affect your organization. We're starting to see a lot more activity with sustainability reporting and sustainability requirements when it comes to financial reporting and different things like that as different standards evolve. Preparing your sales and marketing team is another critical aspect. If you are an organization that sells something, whether it's a product or a service, there's a good chance you're going to be dealing with companies or customers that are definitely very well versed when it comes to sustainability. And there's nothing worse than having to talk about a sustainability program and not knowing what you're talking about or feeling confident or comfortable, and then kind of looking like foolish or not credible when you're talking to someone who really has a good background in this. So very important to make sure that team is really up to speed. Talking about training the community and your customers. If you think about it, every employee is really part of the community. Every customer is part of your community. Another thing that we often do is we utilize role play exercises. It's great for someone to stand in front of a room and run through a PowerPoint and explain, various principles or practices or goals or whatever you're talking about. But if people don't get to practice the story that you want them to tell, then it's not really effective. So role play exercises are a very important aspect. And then it's also really important to create a roadmap moving forward. Continuous improvement is a major component of sustainability and corporate responsibility. So having that roadmap on how you're going to move forward, what type of training you're going to do on an ongoing basis, how you're going to integrate it into marketing and sales and, product development, that kind of thing, all really important. I have a major focus in everything I do, and really what that is making sustainability just part of the way we do business. It should not be an add-on program. If it is an add-on program, those are the organizations that typically struggle, and they're the ones that don't have full buy-in from management and all the employees. But if you can just get your program set up that it is just part of the way you do business, it is part of your everyday business strategy, you're going to find out that it's much more effective to do it that way. And it's not just the job of one person. It's got to be the job of everybody in the organization. In fact, if we really want to create a more sustainable society, we really have to educate a lot of people, not just the people in our companies or our families, but really getting a lot of people in the world to understand how they impact the environment, how they impact society, how their actions can really have an effect on all of us, and getting people really to take that action and care. And webinars like this is one method of doing that, getting the word out, teaching all of you different things you could be working on, not only in your own companies, but maybe with your families or even, friends and, different folks that you run into on a regular basis. Sustainability definitely has to have leadership, but it definitely should be part of the culture. And I tell this story all the time where often we work in companies where it's a very grassroots process where maybe somebody in the marketing department who isn't even a manager sees the light that they really have to start doing something from a sustainability perspective to stay competitive. And you start at the bottom and you work your way up. And then there's some organizations that have top management support that drive it from the top down. Bottom line, if you are a person on this call and this webinar today that has the title of sustainability director or sustainability professional, then you already are in a leadership position, because it takes a lot of your effort to make sure you're getting people engaged and excited. And I say this all the time, but every single person in the organization has a role, and they really do need to get involved. Everybody from the CEO all the way down to people that are cleaning the building and that kind of thing. And first step that we always try to do is not just think about training. We always start out with training the sustainability team. Usually you're going to have a situation where the company or the organization is going to set up a green team or a sustainability team. We focus in on training them right away, getting them really up to speed on what sustainability is, what it means for their organization, so they can be effective members on that team to really promote it and motivate people to get excited. But then the ultimate goal should be to get everybody in the entire company trained. And, it does start at the top level. There are times where you're going to have to really train your C-suite, especially your chief financial officer, somebody who's, controlling the money. They need to understand that it's a very valuable investment for them to do this sustainability work, because basically it's going to provide ongoing payback and could basically drive sales. It could definitely save money within the company, all kinds of different things that have to happen there. And then you basically work down, and maybe you're training by division, or maybe you're training by product group. But we do look at getting everybody involved, even down to the cleaning team or the janitorial staff, the maintenance guys. Everybody needs to know that, number one, the organization has a sustainability program and sustainability initiatives. And number two, they need to realize that they have a role in implementation. If you have someone that's cleaning the building, they definitely have a role. The way they handle the materials when they're, taking the trash out, or how they clean, the different chemicals they use. Maybe you have a written green cleaning policy or program. They need to know about that, need to know how that affects them. Accounting, sourcing, all these different folks, production, they all have a role in the way they think. They are representing the company, no matter who they talk to. It could be customers, it could be internal stakeholders, but they definitely need to have that information and be excited. This image here is from a company that I have an associate with, and this was their way of visually getting all the employees excited by having all the various managers making various commitments. One thing they were trying to do is, some simple things, reducing their paper use, increasing recycling, going to more, using less disposable products and things like that. So you can see here, this was just their way of getting some photographs, doing things in a humorous way, getting people within the organization in every group excited. And this is managers from every different department within this company. So again, different ways you can do this, different ways you can get the company involved, but having that senior level commitment is a great thing to do. We hear this word all the time, that how important collaboration is, and getting a lot of people involved. Collaboration could mean many things. I know here in our own company, we're always collaborating. As employees on the different groups, we might be collaborating on a new way to go to market. We might be collaborating on a better way to do LEED certification on a building, or maybe a more streamlined way that we can do a life cycle assessment or develop an EPD. But, collaboration can involve all different groups. It could be employees, it could be your stakeholders, your customers, your suppliers. We often see the major requirement for collaboration among the supply chain, especially if you're a company that manufactures something, because your suppliers are going to be critical to the success of how green or sustainable your products are. So we are also finding that through collaboration we can be really innovative. And when it comes to making sustainability part of your business strategy, getting the C-suite excited, the front office, is critical. Getting different people involved all throughout the organization, is going to be really important. And as a sustainability professional, your job is going to be, all right, how do we optimize this collaboration? How do we get people excited? How do we get them involved? There was recently a study done by the MIT Sloan School of Management, and you can see here that many people, based on this study that they did, a lot of the folks agreed that collaboration was really needed to promote sustainability. You can see here roughly 67% strongly agreed and 23% agreed somewhat. So a large percentage agreed that in order to really address sustainability issues, you got to do it. You can't do it as one person. You got to have a whole team, have the whole company involved. But what's really interesting here when I look at this is 47% of the companies basically say, that they do collaborate on sustainability, but that's not even half of the groups that were surveyed. So there's still a lot of room to expand that collaboration. I see it every day with the sustainability directors and the EHS directors and the different folks we work with. They're still trying to get people engaged and excited. So this is just, a good information to demonstrate that collaboration is needed. There's a lot of room for improvement, and there's a lot that can be done here to really help drive sustainability throughout the organization. Another key thing that you really want to work on is getting input from all of your employees. And you're always going to find a situation where, regardless of what division, whether it's accounting, logistics, production, operations, whatever, there's always going to be a couple folks that are they really gravitate towards the sustainability idea. They get it. They definitely have a passion and an interest for it. And they're going to be your leaders. They're the ones that you want to get collaborating with you. They're the ones you're going to want to get on your team, helping you to promote things within the different organizations or different areas of responsibility. And they can then be ambassadors that are going to go out and really promote it within their particular group and keep the sustainability ideas and goals and initiatives at the forefront. And they're the folks you really want to be working with. And in order to get good input from these folks, you definitely have to have a really good communication system. In the day of email and instant messaging and all that kind of different things, we do have great ways to communicate, but it is effective, that you as a leader are getting that group to, be informed of what's going on, to keep them apprised of various things that are happening within the company, and also to give them an open door to offer suggestions and ideas. And that can be done in the form of periodic meetings. Like some companies I work with, we have green team meetings every 2 months where we all get together and, we talk about goals and how we're making progress on our goals and different initiatives, industry changes that are coming, things that have been happening in the marketplace, different things like that. So opening a forum like that is a really valuable thing. We're really talking about education and training. That's what this whole PowerPoint is about, is how do we go about and how do we drive this sustainability message into the whole organization. And it really is all about proper education and training. We have seen some great success also with getting people excited about sustainability by using innovative employee benefits. It could be everything from making it part of the performance goals to, giving people time off for being able to volunteer or, to do different things or go out and work within their communities, giving them much time off a year to volunteer, different things like that it could be. And this next item that I would love to talk about is really making it real. Most people that are really into the sustainability realm have a lot of big words, they have a lot of big ideas, they're thinking globally, but to make it real, you got to bring it down to the employee level. Getting employees excited about using less paper or getting employees excited about turning off the lights. You got to bring it down to a level where you're not going to be talking about, the life cycle benefits and carbon footprint of this, more about, hey, by using less paper, we're saving trees, we're reducing costs, these all benefit the environment, our company, and, it's just better overall for the organization. Different little things like that, keeping it down to a level that they can understand. And I routinely encourage a lot of the organizations we work with to have interactive workshops. I know some companies have what they call management summits or management meetings every year or sales meetings every year. those are the times where you have groups of people together where you can do interactive workshops to get input and to use that as a means of having people give you feedback on what sustainability really means to them. As they hear the messaging, they hear the story, but what does it really mean to them in their job, and getting that information to help you do a better job of making it happen every day. One thing that we look at is continuing to get this information out to people, and that's basically getting integrated into what people do every day. So if you want people to recycle, you got to have signage, you got to have proper containers, proper training. If you really want people to be concerned about energy and water, signage, education sessions. I know we did some training a couple of years ago at a manufacturing facility. Well, it was a whole bunch of manufacturing facilities, about 6,000 employees. We trained over a 1.5-year period on energy, water, and waste reductions, and we got measurable results from that. People were coming up with great ideas. We kept it really simple, short trainings, 10 or 15 minutes long. Those kind of things are really important, and that was reinforced with signs and different information, emails. There was video boards where there's company messaging. That kind of thing is a great way to get that information out. Also important to establish clear policies. If you really want sustainability to be real, you've got to have policies that everybody follows and make it part of the way people do business. So, for example, green cleaning or sustainable purchasing or waste management. Those policies and procedures need to be put together, and they need to be communicated, and they need to become part of the way you do business. And that's one way you definitely get things integrated in the culture. Sustainable purchasing, hey, we're buying 100% recycled content paper. Oh, by the way, we're printing less. Oh, by the way, we're, sourcing all of our food from local and organic suppliers, different things like that. If those get written down and then people follow those policies, it makes it a lot easier. Another thing that has been really effective for us is developing checklists and guidelines. I can do all the training I want in the world, but if you're in a room for 8 hours, 4 hours, 2 hours, whatever, or on this webinar even for an hour, what's going to make you or help you to remember exactly what you learned and take it to really implement it with different groups? Here's an example of a sustainable operations checklist. We routinely encourage organizations to do what we call sustainability assessments of their operations. So this is a step-by-step process that any team can follow without having to be experts in sustainability on how to do process and materials flow, or how to do benchmarking and measurement, or how to establish your green team. All of these different things are put together, and then it makes it so people can do it all the time. It's built into the culture. Same thing with sustainable product innovation. We have a lot of manufacturers we work with. We can run all the life cycle assessments in the world, but if they're not using them to make their products more sustainable, not really effective. So we've been able to create scorecards and checklists that then the new product development teams can use on an ongoing basis and integrate it right into the new product development process, either in the stage gate process or whatever, which saves time and effort and keeps everybody working in the same direction and basically controls how those processes are done. So very good tool, very great way. Always have to do training on these when you develop them, and then try to make those trainings hands-on, where not only do they learn about the checklist, but then you have them run through and actually do part of the checklist, and then assign them responsibility to move forward in the future. Another key thing is making sure sustainability information is routinely communicated in a manner that people can understand. I mentioned earlier about getting input from employees, understanding what sustainability means to them. Once you learn that information, just because you think sustainability is one thing, they might be hearing the messaging different or the story different. You want to be able to keep that information out there in a means that they effectively can understand. And that could be through a series of trainings. It could be through a series of meetings. It could be part of, some companies we work with, they always do what they call maybe a safety share, where before they start any meeting, they talk about safety, for 2 or 3 minutes just to get everybody's mind around being safe in the operation. You can also do the same thing with every meeting, talk about, hey, sustainability tip of the day, or, here's how we did on this sustainability goal or whatever. Here in our own company, every company meeting, we talk about our sustainability objectives and how we're doing towards them. takes 1 or 2 minutes, but it always keeps it in people's, forefront. And I want to say that, there's always training for management, there's always training for different folks around sustainability, but getting all employees excited and understanding what the corporate sustainability mission is, the goals, and how it relates to the business activities of the organization are very critical. Another important thing to do is, as you're preparing your sustainability program and you're getting it implemented, you're doing the training, you have to realize that you're going to be constantly evolving and changing and basically trying to keep things up to the market forces. If you're an organization, there's a lot of companies that we work with that are building products companies, so they're always keeping their eyes out on what are the latest green building standards and codes that are coming. There's sustainable purchasing requirements that are starting to pop up. I mentioned those sustainable purchasing policies and programs. Well, they often get implemented for every product that a certain company might buy or every service. So you need to be aware of those, and you need to be able to evolve and adapt. And we've done a lot of webinars talking about materiality and how that affects you. So you need to be aware. What are your customers demanding? What are your competitors doing? You can see on this slide we have this what we call the multi-attribute certification, certified environmental facts, giving information on what makes a product sustainable or green, what makes the manufacturing plant green, different things like that. We're starting to see a lot more of that. And I can tell you, for anybody that's on this call that is involved in buildings, whether you're making building products, you're constructing buildings, or you're just living and operating in a building, green building back in 2001, 2002, 3, 4 time frame was very voluntary. Now we're moving in a direction where green building is going to be basically code required. We now have the International Green Construction Code. We have the California Green Building Standard that is basically dictating that all buildings built in California have to meet certain green criteria. International Green Construction Code, same thing. So this is a market change for building products companies. Before, they were just getting information together to market their products to meet LEED requirements, but now they have to meet code requirements. So those companies that were progressive and thinking ahead are prepared. Another big thing is sustainable purchasing, heavily driven right now in the federal government, Department of Defense, and the General Services Administration. By executive order, are required to purchase green and sustainable products, and they have to document it and they have to prove it that they're meeting those requirements of the executive order that Obama signed when he first got into office. That's Executive Order 03154, and it's a very important thing, and this is translating into a lot more activity. There's an organization right now, the Sustainable Purchasing Leadership Council, and they're actually developing standards around what is sustainable purchasing and what are sustainable products. And I can tell you there's huge institutional purchasers, everybody from federal government through universities to corporations that are strongly looking at these requirements. And these organizations typically just don't want to buy sustainable products. They want to buy products from sustainable companies. So very important to be aware of that. Even if you look at Google, Google's very selective on the products they use in their buildings. So they've got very strict standards around material health of products. And those big corporations can really drive initiatives and activities. I mentioned earlier in the beginning of this webinar that you definitely need to prepare your sales and marketing team. The biggest thing I hear is, we might do a life cycle assessment or develop an environmental product declaration or a health product declaration, or maybe we develop a whole sustainability report for a company, and their folks need to be able to talk about it. And who's usually on the front line? Well, it's usually your sales and marketing team. And they need to be comfortable and confident in telling the story. That's the biggest thing we always hear. Oh, well, this is kind of way over my head. I've never learned this. I'm not familiar with it. And now you expect me to go out and really talk about this like I know what I'm doing. So getting these folks up to speed is critical. And they want to be comfortable. They want to be confident in telling your story. And a lot of the tips we're giving you today in regard to doing role plays and, getting input from the employees Typically when we're establishing, say, green marketing sheets for a company, we're always going to interview the sales guys and the marketing guys that are out on the street every day trying to sell the service or the product. What are you hearing? What are the questions? What are your customers wanting? And then developing that and then training around that. And you definitely have to educate them on the basics. If your company has a sustainability program, you need to be able to tell your story. What does that mean in your own words, so they can make that, elevator pitch or whatever they're going to do when they're trying to promote it. Because, like I said earlier, if they're your front line and they're talking to companies that have some really well-versed people when it comes to sustainability, they can lose credibility really quickly if they don't know what they're talking about. You also have to tell them what does the data mean. All right, if you're tracking carbon footprint reduction, you're tracking energy savings, maybe you're tracking, your community involvement, volunteer hours, you're tracking your training, whatever it is, you need to explain that and how they can communicate that to the customer. And that is a really important aspect, developing that training around that, getting them, excited, engaged. And I can tell you that you're never going to get everybody who's going to jump on this. There's always people in sales and marketing. Some people have been in the business a long time, and some of them get it right away and they see the value of giving a competitive advantage. Then there's always a lot of young people that are pretty excited about it, but you'll always have the naysayers that are going to just continue to do business as usual. But we have found that the sales and marketing teams that really grasp this and get excited generally have higher sales. They're generally nailing, if they're doing what they've learned, they're generally nailing the big accounts with the companies and organizations that are really engaged in sustainability, and that has proven to be very effective. It's also important to know that almost every company has a marketing plan. How do they go to market? How do they, talk to customers? How do they get the word out? And it's great to be thinking about things like brand loyalty or new business or how you grow the business, but you definitely need to make sure that a part of that marketing plan, if you're holistically integrating sustainability, is going to be integrated into that plan. So you're training the folks, you're getting it built right into the marketing plan. Even when we do sustainable product innovation work, part of the stage gate process is getting the product out to market, because typically a new product development comes from the marketing group. They are hearing what the voice of customer, they're hearing what the customers want, and they're putting together suggestions on new products that need to be developed. So we actually integrate the sustainability activities and initiatives in the various stages and gates that are required to plan for how you go to market, how you promote the product, and also how you're promoting the sustainability of the company, because the story has to be holistic, not just sustainable products. You got to be telling, why is the company or organization sustainable? What are you doing? And years ago when we first started this business, people were always like, oh, this is just a fad. It's going to go away. It's not going to last. Well, I've been in this business since 2001. Actually, earlier than that, 1999 is when I really started it, 1998, and it's not going away. You're seeing more drivers for it. You're seeing a lot more people that are really looking for this information. When you got financial institutions and investors requiring reporting and requiring sustainability information, that's huge. We even have building owners now, developers that are building buildings, and the banks are telling them, if you don't get this building LEED certified, we're not giving you the money. So, it's out there and it's not something that's going away. And I think you got to get all your employees realizing that. Really important also when it comes to communicating sustainable product attributes for those of you that are here that manufacture something or sell something, some type of product. You want to be getting the word out, and that can be done through sustainability reports, fact sheets, brochures, company newsletters. It can be on your website. It's really important when you're doing that to educate employees about it. It really blows me away. Some companies generate a sustainability report and they roll it out to the world, but they don't even tell their employees about it. They don't give them any training or any overview of it. So very important that you do that, and that's all part of this, making this sustainability training effective, keeping it in people's forefront, keeping them aware. Also really important to share milestones and when goals are achieved. So let's say that you had a goal to reduce energy use, or you have a goal to increase your volunteer hours in the community. When you hit those goals, you need to let people know that. You need, maybe it's an announcement at a company meeting, or a, all hands meeting, or, maybe you're having a team building exercise, different things like that you need to communicate. And getting that word out is going to be critical, and communicating it to everyone, not just putting it on your website and hoping your customers see it, but getting everybody engaged and excited about it. And all of these documents that you see listed here serve as a means for training. Like a company newsletter or even a fact sheet or a brochure could be a very valuable tool for someone who's in sales or marketing, because it's one thing they don't have to remember. They could quickly scan through that fact sheet or brochure before they go in and meet with the client, get that confidence that they need, get comfortable, and be able to really talk with them. Next thing is really about training your customers. It's great to have all this information put together, but if you just kind of rely on osmosis for people to really understand what's going on, that's not going to be very effective. So what we're really finding is, getting out, doing trainings and education for your customers, letting them know, making announcements. If something big happens in your company, you want to get the word out, whether it's in a newsletter or an email blast. A lot of times we'll do, we have some success around something. Maybe we were recently selected as a lead proven provider, and there's only 20 of them in the country. So, we went out to all our clients and basically told them about that, because number one, it was pretty hard to get that designation, and number two, it helps us do their jobs more efficiently and effectively. So, for example, like if you're a building products company, you want to be getting out, teaching the architects, the specifiers, and the builders, letting them know about your products, but also letting them know about the sustainability in your company, getting them excited, getting them to recognize your brand, and basically getting that competitive advantage you're looking for. Same thing goes with purchasing agents or your supply chain. If you're buying materials and products, you're going to want to be working with educating the purchasing agents on what are the sustainable attributes of your product, and in reverse, going down the supply chain and saying, look, we have this whole sustainability initiative, our customers are requiring this, and getting your supply chain people engaged, whether that's at meetings or whether you're, doing webinars for them or sharing the information you developed around your sustainable product innovation process, really important. And then when it comes to educating the community, if you think about it, your employees are your community. Everybody that works for you is going out, they leave work, and they're involved in maybe the local fire department, the school, they're coaching, they're in a church, whatever. The more you get them excited about what you're doing, the more they're going to tell people out in the world on what you're doing, and that's a great way to communicate and educate the local community. You can also do things where maybe you pull together a community advisory panel or a group, depending on the type of organization you are, and educating them, and then having them be your messenger and your advocate when you're out in the world. So also, if you're involved in any nonprofits or you do volunteer work, you're going to want to let the groups you work with know, what your initiatives and activities are, and getting them up to speed. And think about it, an employee that's trained well is going to go home and they're going to tell their family, their friends, that kind of thing. They're going to educate them. And, we've seen some great success with that, with some of the training we've done in some companies. And, even if you look at companies that do great things like Interface Corporation, their mission was to train all their employees, have them go out and be ambassadors to not only let people know about the great things that Interface did, but, ambassadors of change, to change the way people do things, to really make society a more sustainable. Next thing is definitely the role play exercises. It's a really valuable thing when you can do role play, and that could involve, if you're doing a live training, you get a bunch of people in a room, you teach the concepts, you talk about the various things you're looking to achieve, you get a couple volunteers, you run through a couple role play exercises, then you break the room out and let them work in groups, practicing what they're doing, practicing telling their story, the sustainability story, practicing saying it in their own words, but getting the message out to whoever their audience is. So that could be role plays that practice talking to different types of customers. It could be role plays talking with management, or even role plays talking to your peers within in a company to get them more engaged and excited, especially with your leaders that are helping you to drive sustainability into the business culture. And then, also teaching people about what are some of the hot topics in industry. I keep mentioning the fact that we do a lot of building products, and, anybody that has developed an environmental product declaration, they need to get educated and practice talking to an architect about it or talking to a builder about it, because some of these folks are really well educated, and they're going to know what to ask and know how to handle things. So you really want to have that comfort level, and these role plays just really get that going. I also like to get, whenever I do any training, I usually like to wrap up the training by getting whoever was in the training to do an interactive exercise at the end on making a commitment of 2 things they're going to do to help drive sustainability into the organization. And it could be as simple as, I'm going to recycle more, or it could be, they're going to start to, teach different people in their division more about it or whatever. But those things are all really important, and that's another way of getting that interactive activities going. Last but not least, we wanted to talk about creating a roadmap to moving forward. We do know that sustainability is going to be a constant process of continuous improvement. If your goals are to be zero emissions, zero waste, zero impact on the environment, zero impact on society, those things definitely are going to take a lot of work. And it takes planning, acting, learning, doing lessons learned, evolving and changing, all real important. And a roadmap could be a plan. Maybe you have different sustainability goals you're working on, but even in our own company, we have planned training that we're going to do. Usually when I'm working with a different, like an organization on developing a sustainability program, we'll have a whole plan on how we're going to start the training. Maybe we start with training the sustainability or green team, then we train the C-suite, then we get a train-the-trainer program to get all the different people in different divisions who are leaders to start training all the employees and just filling them in, or different things like that. But it's a whole roadmap and a plan of, here's how we're going to march forward. We're going to do it on X date at this time, and getting that planned. And, sometimes, with budgeting and planning, a lot of organizations need to have this information to prepare for any kind of expenditures they might have and things like that. Definitely want to ensure that you're implementing the initiatives you plan and tracking progress all through this. And, having this communication and roadmap going forward is really going to help to drive and continue to improve the way you get things built into your organization. So one thing that we just do a quick summary of the learning objectives. I definitely think that we covered a lot of the aspects that we had talked about earlier. Being able to educate your company to effectively communicate sustainability objectives, how to prepare your company to maximize opportunities, looking to gain competitive advantage, and staying a leader, all very important things. And I think all these tips that I've just given you, these 10 steps, are all very helpful and can definitely help drive that forward. Now, one thing that I failed to mention when I kicked off this webinar is if there are any questions, we have like 10 minutes here at the end here to take questions. I've gotten a few in already, but if any of you are thinking of anything where you have a question or even a suggestion or an idea, please put that in the question pane, and I'll address that, because I have found that running through these is really good, but having giving people the ability to ask questions, you might be sitting there thinking, oh wow, I'm really wondering about this, but you're afraid to ask. And no question is a dumb question. It actually makes the training and the webinar a lot more exciting. So this is something that I think is very important, and this is also something that we can help by bringing it to different organizations. If you liked what you learned on this webinar, we can definitely do different things like that. And I also wanted to mention we do have another webinar coming up on March 19th where we're going to talk about greening your product design process. So keep that in mind. Now I want to just jump into the questions I received here. It looks like I got about 3 or 4 of them. One question says, when is it best to conduct training as a standalone program, event, or as part of corporate meetings, etc. So, well, I think you got to look at the organization. You have to decide what's going to be best. I gave you a lot of ideas on different things you can be doing as an organization, but being able to decide what's the best time to do training. Well, sometimes, especially when we roll out a new sustainability report, we like to do training for all employees to let them know it's out there, and that's usually done either at a department level or sometimes at a all-hands meeting. So I can't really say there's one that's better than the other. It's a combination of looking at, what's going to be the best to get this information out to the different folks you're trying to get engaged and excited in the most timely manner. Next question says, do you find it better to bring in an outside company to do training or keep training internal? Well, we definitely look at a combination. We found very good work. A lot of times people aren't well versed in sustainability or they don't have a good idea on training. We've done a lot of situations where we've developed the training, we train a bunch of trainers, and then the folks within the company actually implement that. That tends to work out really well, and that way you're getting the expertise you need, saving you some time, and that's very valuable. The next question I have here is, what experience or opinions could be offered? Oh, sorry, it's bouncing around here. So what experience or opinions could be offered today on carrot stick applications to modify behaviors? It says you've mentioned making sustainability part of employee performance. Please elaborate. Well, carrot and stick, if you think about it, people will focus on which things that have definitely an effect on them. So when it comes to building it into employee performance reviews, for example, I know there's a number of organizations we work with where maybe the CEO is responsible for ensuring that various activities or sustainability goals are met, so that becomes part of their goals, which then eventually trickles down to everybody else. I've seen people who have people in their department that are responsible for sustainability that makes that part of their performance, and if they don't hit those goals, they get less money or that kind of thing. So building that into the actual performance appraisal, making it a established written goal, has been proven to be very effective. Some organizations won't do that, but the ones that have done it, it has been extremely successful. So coming back to the carrot and stick thing, well, if you really want sustainability to become part of your business culture and just the way you do business, then I do think that sustainability objectives should be a part of everybody's performance objectives and goals. And that way, you're like, okay, this is the way we do business, so having it in here is not anything new or weird. It's just the way we're doing it. Next one, what is the single most common roadblock to convincing management to begin a sustainability program, and how do you address it? Well, oftentimes what we're seeing when it comes to management, managers, they are all about running a business. A lot of times they're just focused on sales or, whatever they're trying to do. And if they don't really see the connection on how sustainability can help drive that, that's where you run into roadblocks. So being able to effectively educate them, so that would mean, let's say that you have competitors that are out doing good work on sustainability. You want to make them aware that, hey, these guys are doing this and they're getting the word out, and we just lost 3 sales because of this. Or, we haven't lost any sales yet, but we're concerned. And we often find that, folks like the chief financial officers, for example, if you can speak their language, we never really talk a lot about what I call the fluffy part of sustainability. We always know that we're going to save money, and money talks, and, if you can basically demonstrate how implementing a sustainability program is going to reduce costs or save resources or energy or whatever, most people can really get that. And the environmental and the social benefits will come, just from the, you achieve the cost savings, but you're also going to get those other benefits. So definitely keep those in mind as different ways, talking the language that they'll understand, not using big jargon, not dropping the word sustainability as much, really talking more about a business strategy that has proven to be very effective. So next one I have here, what are some ways you have generated excitement among a semi-lackluster employee group? That's a common problem, and that's a great question. Typically what we like to do is, most people really relate to the fact of where you have successes. So let's say that an employee does something that has resulted in, either some cost savings or increased sales, basically getting, recognizing that person or recognizing that group that was involved and getting people really excited about that, or, even giving them some kind of fear, making it a priority in the fact that, let's say that, you do have a competitor who's doing something, or, there's some kind of legislation coming down the pike, basically telling them, hey, this is why we really need to do this, and I assume you all like working here, so it's in our best interest to really figure out how we're going to make this a new and exciting thing that we can do. And that has proven to work pretty well when you're, giving examples of how something has happened where, maybe some company landed a big sale because they had a sustainability program or whatever. That tends to get people more from lackluster to a little more excited. So again, that's some of the examples that I can throw out, and there are others. Okay, I have another one here. It says most companies have a new employee training session. How is it best to incorporate sustainability into these sessions and make sure it's covered properly? That's an excellent question. In fact, usually what we do is when we do sustainability training for an organization. So let's say we just did a training at an all-hands meeting where the CEO, basically rolled out some information, talked about sustainability for a few minutes, and then there was another session where maybe the sustainability director or whatever came on board and basically talked about the new sustainability report or some goals that were achieved. That's really good, but what we really like to do is integrate sustainability into new employee orientation. Oh, by the way, you're now hired by this, you now work for this organization. You flip through the employee handbook, whoever's doing that, have a section in there on the sustainability program. Or if they have to take online training when they come on board, you're definitely going to have a few slides about the mission, the goals, the messaging, the story, what is the sustainability activities within the company. That way they're coming in, they're already trained, and I can pretty much be sure that people that are coming in are probably looking at your sustainability program, and that's why they want to work there. We see this all the time with young people that are looking for jobs. They're searching. We have people that work here that have been offered higher paying corporate jobs that have selected our place to work because they know we're mission driven. They know they're actually going to be doing really good hands-on work. So it's not all about money all the time. And those kind of things are going to be important. So I think if you have that built right into your orientation, they know, okay, I got hired here because this company has a sustainability program. They're getting hit with it right in the beginning. That's reinforcing that they made a right decision. And that plays big into employee retention and, future attraction, because they have friends they're going to tell about and, different things like that. I know for a fact, like even it's Patagonia, that really nice clothing company that's, touts their sustainability story. They have a job posting. They get thousands of resumes because people just want to work for them, so those kind of things are really important, and you want to definitely make sure you're integrating that in. So it looks like I think I've addressed, did I get most of these here? Let me see. I got one more up here. Okay, so it says here, this question is, after training, how do we make sure employees do what they learn or understand what they are taught? So that's, again, coming back to the role plays, really important. Also comes back to periodic reinforcement and, giving employees some ownership. For example, if, it kind of comes back to the whole thing of integrating it within the employee performance review or into the activities of the organization. If you have folks that you really want to be doing what they're told, you want to hold them accountable. We recently did some training for a materials or waste management company, and what the supervisor did with them is we spent all day training them on how they could promote, improve performance in existing buildings or new construction with the services they offered. And we went through a bunch of role plays, So this manager set it up that they met every other week. Every other week, they had to report to him exactly how they used what they learned, who they did the elevator pitch to, who they did different activities with. So all very important things to keep people accountable, and that's really what it's about. Not just doing the training and walking away from it, but saying, all right, next meeting we're talking about this, and you better come with examples on how you did this, or you come with examples on how other things you need, or if you need different support, those kind of things. Keep it at the forefront. So next thing, I think we've covered all the different questions, and we've only got a few minutes left here. So I do want to thank everybody for joining today. This has been recorded, and recordings are available if you want to pass it along to anybody else. Please contact us if you want to, basically sign up for any other webinars, or if you have any comments or questions that have arisen that you weren't able to ask here, let us know. Feel free to email or send some information. I want to thank you all for joining today. It was a great crowd today. Excellent questions. We had a really good turnout on the questions, which made it a lot more interesting. So I really appreciate all of you joining, and look forward to speaking with you on future webinars. Have a great day.